continuing our lectures on local adjustments. In this lecture, we will be going over radial filter. Our shortcut is Shift plus M. This is very similar to the graduated filter that we have learned in the last lecture. The only difference is the shape of the filter. By using this filter, we can select a circle or oval shapes or elliptic shapes or areas of our image. This filter is specifically good or effective for selecting a person, a subject in an image. For example, by using this filter, we can select just the subjects and make the necessary adjustments on that. We cannot do that using graduated filter because the graduated filter selects the whole areas. That problem is fixed using the radial filter. The rest of the settings are the same. As we see, we have selected our subjects and we know that this subject is a little bit darkened. So I want to add some of the brightness back to the image, to the subject, and make the subject a little bit visible and pop in the image. In this case, the filter is inverted and we see that all of the rest of the image is being affected, but the areas that we selected is out of the range or they are not affected by using the sliders. To invert that, we have this invert option. I'll just take that and all of the effects will be inverted. Now, if we change any sliders, only the areas that are selected will be affected. In our case, it is the subject of the image. So I want to add some details back to the subject and make it pop in the rest of the image. To toggle our effects, we see we have this option, and by using the radial filter, we just added some details back to the image and specifically to the subject of our image. If we notice in here, we have added the effects and these areas are the areas that are out of the subject and they look a little bit out of place because the rest of the areas are darkened, but these specific areas are getting brighter. To change that, we have this feather slider, and by increasing that, we will be decreasing the effect range of the filter or the mask. By decreasing that, the changes will get very harsh and we will have a very extreme change. And by increasing the feather will have a very smooth and unnoticeable change. If the problem is not fixed with that, we have this option, brush, and we will have these options. First one, we can add some areas to the filter, to the radial filter. And we see that the filter now contains these areas also. The effect is applied in these areas too. If you want to erase it, we have this erase option, and we can remove some of the areas that are being affected or included in the radial mask. So I want to delete the areas that are not subject, and by doing that, the effect of the filter or the radial filter will be removed too, and it will include only the subject, and other areas will remain untouched and unchanged. Now that problem is gone, and we have only increased the brightness in areas that the subject is present. This brush option also has some feather options, size and feather. And as we see in here, by feather, we can increase the smoothness or decrease it. By flow, we can select the opacity of this subject. This auto mask button is very important and very useful while using the brush. If we turn this option on, Lightroom will detect the edges and will select only the areas that are inside that edge and will not go beyond the edges of the image. Let's see the effects. First, I want to add some of the areas to the filter again and use the erase button with the auto mask to delete that. As you see here, the effects is getting removed from all areas and not the edges or the areas that are inside that edge. This auto mask is very useful and you can use that to refine or make the selection very fast and increase your workflow time. The next tool that we have in here is adjustment brush. If for some reasons we could not select our desired or specific areas, Using the graduated or radial filter, we have the adjustment brush. Is a custom brush. We can select any areas of the image that we want customly and according to our need. For example, as you're seeing, we can select each and every areas, every part of the image, and that we have control over the specific areas also. We will be having the same options as we have discussed before: feather, flow, and all these options. For example, in this image, we want to enhance the sunlight that is coming in here. So I'll be just selecting the sunlight or the areas that the sun is peaking. Let's change the add some highlights, some whites, little bit of dehaze, not too much. Increase the feather, and yeah, just like this, simply we have enhanced the highlight that are coming from the sun. And by using these options, we can create lens flares and lots of other creative tools too. We'll be going over that in the next sections. For now, we have learned all of the sliders and what they do and what these tools are for and what can be used. And that was it for this video. See you in the next sections.